Podcasting often gets compared to other forms of media like TV, radio, or even blogging. But podcasting is messy and tends to spill out of any box you try to put it in. Now, is that its superpower or its Achilles heel? Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. So I was watching a comedy special at the end of last week, and one of the comedians said some pretty poignant things that really has my mind going down that particular path. It's a path that my mind has gone down quite a bit, and that's the question of what is this thing we call podcasting? And we're going to deal with that a little bit today here on the program as I try and work through this big question about what podcasting is, and specifically what the comedian was talking about is he said that he kept talking about comedy as his genre. The genre that he's chosen to be in, give him a great life and all this very stuff. Great. But it's a genre of comedy. And I was puzzling around that concept is comedy a genre? This was a stand-up comedian. But I think it is, which is the good news. But, I'm thinking about comedy movies. I'm thinking about comedy in comedy writing for TV. People who write funny songs and all the other aspects of comedy and clowns. and is comedy a media or a genre? And clearly it is. So that's got me thinking in the podcasting space. Because, you see, I think I have always leaned on podcasting as a medium. And that's kind of the way that it is defined already. Podcasting is simply the dissemination of media files with RSS feeds. It's a medium. And you can think of radio as a medium. Radio waves transmit through the air. And TV as a medium in that the device where the content gets down to consume to it. Those certainly are mediums. But I'm thinking back to podcasting. Is podcasting itself a genre or a medium? And again, my head has always been, it's a medium. It's up to creators to figure out what to do with it. Well, that's got me to thinking. Maybe that's the challenge. Maybe creators of podcasts think about things vastly different than facilitators of podcasting. And while I got into podcasting originally as a creator, I quickly transitioned to becoming a facilitator. Still do, and obviously here I am today, still creating content, but for a long time, most of my contributions in podcasting were on the facilitation sides. I put out more, I think I did more good and work and things in podcasting in facilitation than I did actually in creating. And what isn't really important. So is podcasting genre defining? Do we do enough unique things in the podcasting space to say that's a podcast? You can look at a comedian and say that he's doing comedy. You can watch a really funny TV show and say that's comedy. You can define all these things around that genre of comedy. And of course, comedy's not a medium. There's no way to get that out of. You could have an argument that you're trying to get your points across in the medium of comedy, but not what I'm talking about here. Is podcasting like that? Do we do enough things differently in podcasting to set us apart from the other ones to where we can say podcasting itself is a genre? Now, we have a lot of different subgenres in there. I have argued on this program that there's not a lot of overlap between full cast audio drama producers and, say, for example, a business series of interviews. Vastly different things all going across the same medium of podcasting. They're audio files that are transmitted down to you via an RSS feed, yay. But I didn't think there was a lot of commonality in the content. And I don't necessarily think that I'm not sure I still don't think that. How many double negatives was that? But I go back to looking at the genre question of podcasting and compare that to something like comedy. Big difference between what's happening at a stand-up comedian and what's happening in a television show or a funny book or a clown at a party, if that's even comedy, maybe just more entertainment. I don't know. So I'm kind of wondering about where it fits. And as you can see, I don't really have an answer for the question, is it a genre in and of itself, or is it a medium? I think it's clearly a medium. That's an easy answer. It's whether or not we can carve out something for a genre. This is this question, and clearly you might have an answer in your head automatically and are puzzled why I don't. But I don't, and I haven't for 16 years. This is why I have always struggled when we collectively as a group have tried to do things around organization. Because there have been a lot of different organizations that try to represent the needs of podcasters. And I've been resistant to that. Partly, I feel like I should be resistant to it, since anytime there's a huge wave going one way, you know me, it's my job as the professional contrarian to go the other direction. But I think for a large part of it, it was because I couldn't get past the podcasting is more medium than it is genre question, and we don't need it. We don't necessarily need that organization for the medium. Maybe we do for the creating side of things. Maybe it's even more complicated on the creating side of getting this. So that's why this isn't a question about whether or not we should have professional organizations. I think those make a lot of sense. But is there an opportunity for one group of people to represent the genre of podcasting? And there's a comedy writers association. There's lots of organizations that get into comedy, but there's not one that trying to covers podcast or comedy overall. So maybe that's what's causing my brain not to understand the true value of these larger organizations. I just don't know. If there's a message, I guess, that's going to come out of this show is that some of these questions don't have answers. And I think that's okay. Maybe that's one of the benefits of this unboxable thing we call podcasting, is that it constantly comes up with new edge cases, and maybe not even edge cases, maybe enough cases to where it's just really hard to put this in a box. I just don't know. I'm not sure what the right answer is. I'm not even sure we need a right answer out of that. It's just this question. And maybe it's all about approach. Maybe it's all about a personal approach. Are you the genre-minded person, or are you the medium-minded person? I think I'm the medium-minded person, but maybe I want to be the genre-minded person. I don't know. Things to think about while you're sitting here dealing with the lockdown. Hey, two things on that lockdown while we're talking about it. One, how about you can increase your R0 value? Not of spreading the virus, obviously, but of spreading the show, Podcast Pontifications. Would you tell one person who's a podcaster to follow the show? It makes a huge difference. If you just tell one person right now about this show, that'd be really, really awesome. And speaking of lockdown and the lockdown ending, possibly, those mixed messages, this was a mixed message show. My goodness. I want to hear from you about how the pandemic is affecting you as a podcaster. Send me stories of woe, send me stories of success, whatever. If you're figuring out something new with podcasting because of the lockdown, I want to hear that story. Send me an email, please, evo@podcastlaunch.pro. And I shall be back tomorrow with yet another Podcast Pontifications. Cheers!